Welcome to the Buick Outdoors Podcast. I'm your host, Sheldon Marion, and on this podcast, we dive deep into the outdoors. We discuss hunting and fishing techniques, give you tips and tricks, tell stories, and everything in between to help you enjoy the outdoors. This podcast is brought to you by Northbound Gear. Northbound Gear is designed for maneuverability and durability and is made to last through even the toughest of elements. My go-to for their pants is the water resistance adventure pants and their lined waterproof jeans. I've worn them while out ice fishing, crawling through the woods bear hunting, and on the west coast out on the boat. And I even wear them around when I'm having a lazy day at the house. They are that comfortable. They also offer jackets, summer pants, backpacks, and many more. Men's and women's sizes are available, and by partnering with One Tree Planted, you're planting a tree with every purchase. Check them out for yourself at northboundgear.co, and when you use my promo code Sheldon15 at checkout, you'll receive 15% off your order. That's northboundgear.co and promo code Sheldon15. Hey everyone, welcome back to another Buick Outdoors Podcast. If you're new here, I'm your host Sheldon Marion, and before we get into this episode, if you're watching this on YouTube and you want to listen to it, head over to pretty well any major podcast platform and search up the Buick Outdoors Podcast if you just want to listen to it. If you are just listening to it and you want to watch the video version, head over to our YouTube channel and there'll be a podcast playlist, as well as there's a playlist for all of our other outdoor adventures: hunting, fishing, exploring, cooking. There's a little bit of everything for everyone, and then while you're over there, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Well, welcome back to the podcast. If you're watching this, you can see that we're no longer in the holiday trailer, unfortunately. Our bear camp has come to an end this year. It's been just a phenomenal 3 weeks of hunting and cooking and having people out. We had a little bit of a setback there on week 2. It was pretty well 4 or 5 days of pretty much straight rain and then a couple days for the roads to dry up, but that gave me time to do some editing and get some videos up and all that good stuff. But yeah, we had a great time out there. 5 bears were killed in total, which was pretty good little run that we had. Unfortunately, we didn't get to hunt as much as we would like because of the weather and rain, but we still did very, very well. My first bear that I got, it was kind of a funny story there. I took the holiday trailer into town on Wednesday. I had to get water and groceries and all that stuff and propane, and I put on some decals on the holiday trailer now, and came home and it was running a little bit late, so I went out Thursday to bear camp, got everything set up, just kind of sat around, didn't do a whole heck of a lot. And then Friday, I wanted to make sure that all the guns were sighted in. So I took out the old 300 and the 30-06, went down the road to my little shooting spot, sighted in the rifles, went back to the trailer, put new boot laces on my hunting boots, and then because it was basically the first day out, I wasn't exactly hunting and I didn't really have all my camera gear ready to go and stuff. Normally what I do on the first day is I drive around and I just look at the area. I find out, kind of what roads are starting to green up, what pipelines are greening up. And I kind of like to take a tally of where the bears are, because typically bears don't really move overly too much. They stay within a kilometer or two of the road that they're kind of eating on. And so I was just going out to pretty well do a scouting trip, and I went across the road, and you get to a T in the road and a hang a right, and that's basically the first road that you're pretty well hunting on, and right away there's a pipeline there. So as I'm coming up to the pipeline, it's kind of angling away from you, so you have to look over your shoulder, almost through your back window kind of a thing of the pickup, and there's a bear pretty well smack dead center of that pipeline. So I just rolled ahead a little bit, shut off the truck. I started to gather all my camera gear because it was all just kind of laying out. I even like the bullets for my rifle were still in the box up in the center console, kind of a thing. So I had to get all my camera gear set up, put the GoPro on the head, grab the GoPro with the little gooseneck clamp, grab this camera that I'm recording on right now, put that on the tripod, grab my bullets out of the box, get out of the truck, put the bullets in the gun, extend the arms on the tripod and all that good stuff, get everything turned on and rolling. And I thought for sure that bear would have just walked away, but really, he just kept eating with his head down and just slowly was making his way away from me. And he might have went maybe 10 yards further down the pipeline. And even the stalk itself it doesn't get any easier whatsoever. That was one of those bears where you basically walk up to within 100 yards and they don't even care that you're there. So the start of my hunting season was very easy. Pretty well, once I had all my gear ready to go and turned on, I just walked up the road, set up the tripod, laid the rifle across, waited till the bear turned broadside, took a couple more bites of food, pulled the trigger once, and he just went splat right in his tracks. He didn't move. So it was the first day, the first road, the first pipeline, the first bear, the first shot. And it doesn't get any easier than that. Then pretty well with that bear too, he was basically just like a camp meat bear. I quartered them all out, took the back straps, brought everything back to the holiday trailer. I skinned them all out. I let them cool for a couple of days. I kept the back straps. I made kind of like a honey garlic fajita kind of a thing with the back straps and with the birch syrup. And then the rest I brought home. I think it was about 2 days later. It was kind of it was a warm day, so I didn't want to keep the meat around camp for much longer. Otherwise, it would have just spoiled, or the flies would have laid eggs on it, and then you get maggots and stuff, and you don't want that. So yeah, I pretty well took it home. I took off 2 pretty well rump roasts, and then the rest of it, I cubed it all up, ran it through the meat grinder, and I made just a bunch of little 1/2 to 1 pound vacuum wrap bags of fine ground burger. And yeah, I've been eating on that pretty well almost every day for the last 18 or 17 days. So yeah, if you eat 1 package every 2 days, that's still like 8 packages of burger that I've ate. And some days I ate more because I had more people out there. I made chili, nachos, fajitas, wraps. What else did I make? Oh, with the leftover chili. When Blaine came out, we made leftover chili cheese hot dogs. I gave that to Blaine and Courtney when they were out for a visit. Or no, it was Blaine and Shelby that was out there for the visit. And then after that, my buddy Tevin, he wanted to come out with his boy. He just got done his own little hunting trip, their own little bear camp, and they didn't quite have such good luck as I did. So they came out for a day, and we drove them around, and I think counting bear cubs, I think it was 15 bears in one day. We put the stock on 2 bears, and his son Joel there, I want to say he's 13, somewhere around there, and he really wanted to get his son a bear, and we put the stock on those 2, and we got fairly close. They were within about 150 yards. The one was closer to 200 yards. And he was shooting a little 243 and stuff. And we had my little tripod. But, the kid just didn't quite feel comfortable taking those shots. So, hats off to the kid for not rushing and just shooting to shoot and trying to kill a bear. He wanted to make sure that he did it by the book and he did it right. So it's yeah, he did the good thing. He made the right calls, and unfortunately he didn't get a bear, but they were also out for one day, so it's pretty hard to really get a bear on a 1 day hunt. Unfortunately, that evening, that's pretty well when it started to rain, and then it rained for, I want to say, 4 days straight almost, and then it took about 2 more days for everything to dry up. It was 1 day for the main road to dry up, and then 2-3 days for like kind of the side roads to dry up, and then also after that, it basically started raining off and on for the rest of the couple weeks that I was out there. So yeah, the rain definitely, it didn't help too much. With the rain too, there's so much moisture on the ground now that when the sun does come up, and we've already had a couple of plus 24 days, and usually in the springtime, the only grass that's growing is in the ditches of the roads and also on some pipelines and the odd cut line. But this year, because of how much rain and moisture that we've had, and then to top it off with how hot it gets when it stops raining, when you're driving around looking into the trees and stuff, even in the dead grass, there's still green grass growing in between trees and willows, where typically there isn't anything growing in there until like kind of July-ish kind of time. So this year there was a lot less bears that we were seeing because they didn't have to go out to the roads to eat. They could just cruise through the trees and just munch all day long. Like, they didn't have to come out to the road. So it made things a little bit harder for spotting bears. But yeah, once his thing started to dry up, Blaine had plans to come out for a few days and to do some hunting. And this year it was kind of a learning curve for Blaine. He's still new to hunting. He still gets very excited and anxious and nervous, which is totally acceptable. I mean, he's only really killed one bear, one moose, and I think a white-tailed doe. So he's only really killed 3 things other than a handful of chickens and stuff. So, he does have a lot to learn. And I know a lot of times when people get that excited too, you could have a full-on conversation with them and they won't remember a word that you say, kind of thing, because they're so focused on what's going on with the animal that they're looking at. So yeah, Blaine had a few issues, but we're working through them. The one bear, pretty well we left camp and we went, it's just a couple kilometers, maybe 4 clicks from camp, and there was a bear walking down the middle of the road. So typically what happens is you stop the truck a couple 100 yards back, you get out and you walk up 100 yards, and the bear just kind of goes off into the ditch and starts eating, and then you can take a poke at him. With this bear, it just kept walking down the road. It wouldn't stop, wouldn't turn, it wouldn't go and eat. We ended up following that bear for probably about half a kilometer down the road before it finally slowly started to veer off and started eating some grass. And then while it was eating, I was telling Blaine, just take your time. The bear's not doing anything. He's not paying any attention to us. We have all the time in the world. And the bear was kind of quartering away from us. He had his head out and chewing on some grass. And Blaine's timer just ran out. He didn't have the patience to wait for that bear just to take a couple more steps sideways. And he went for headshot, which I don't recommend whatsoever. Past like a 50-yard shot kind of a thing. With this bear, he was about 125 yards. So 125 yard headshot, just shooting off trigger sticks when you're, even if you're experienced hunter, isn't a good shot. But when you're a new hunter, you shouldn't take that shot. But Blaine tried, and fortunately for the bear, when Blaine pulled the trigger, he was probably about 10 inches to the left. And what ended up happening was he ended up shooting the rock that was a couple inches away from that bear's nose. If you watch the video, it looks pretty brutal the way that the bear swings his head up. But I think what happened was Blaine pulled the trigger, that bullet went, it hit that rock, and just shrapnel of that rock kind of came up and kind of smacked the bear in the face, unfortunately. It was enough to make the bear a little mad, and there was 2 little drops of blood on a couple of rocks. And other than that, that bear will be perfectly fine, other than he might not eat on the side of the road for a little bit. He'll probably have some PTSD or something from an exploding rock. But, oh well, that was bear number 1. Bear number 2 was a really, really big bear on the side of a lease. And it's one of those things where I tell everybody, but I said, you don't, everybody thinks they've seen a big bear until they've seen a big bear. Well, this one on this lease was a pretty big bear. With this one, there was no fault of us. We seen the bear, we got out, we started to walk up to it. The wind was kind of coming from the west, and it kind of came from the east, and it swapped around, kind of came from the north. Once it did that, it just swirled, went down to the bear, and he just took off running. Then I told Blaine, I said, well, we'll just stand here for a few minutes, we'll see if he comes back out. And he ended up coming out on the far corner, and basically the wind was still doing that weird wishy-washy thing. Bear kind of came out, he walked about 50 yards out, right along kind of the bank and the bush line. Bear wasn't overly too comfortable, or he got a little whiff of our scent, so he turned and just slowly walked off. And then that was the last we seen of that bear that day. But we hopped back into the truck, went for another drive down another little side road, and this is where I've been seeing a cinnamon bear quite a bit. So me and Blaine slowly drove up there. We seen the bear, and for some reason there was 2 cinnamon bears. One is a kind of a darker brown color, and he's just kind of a cautious bear. Then there's one that's almost a white bleach blonde kind of a looking bear, and we call that one chicken shit, because you can't get anywhere close to that bear. In this particular time that we didn't see chicken shit, we just seen the cinnamon bear. And with this one, we stopped the truck, started to walk out, same thing, wind's kind of going all over the place, and he just kind of took off. But when he took off, Blaine forgot his window rolled down, and once that bear started to move, the dogs didn't like that. Rocky and Blaine's dog Macaroni, they both jumped out and came running down the road to help us out, I guess. But that one took off, and then pretty well when we left there, so chicken shit was about another half kilometer up on the right, and there's just these great big huge tall dead standing grass crap, and it's kind of the same color as the bear. And he was sitting there with his back facing towards us, and he just looks like a big pile of this grass that's just sitting there. But as soon as you pull up, he just bolts and he's gone. So we've seen him again, but I don't even count that bear at all. There's no way you can stock up on that one unless you stop like a kilometer back and start walking. Cause I've seen him a couple of times, and the one I was at the top of the hill, he was at the bottom of the hill. As soon as I crested that hill, he bolted, and you can see it's like a kilometer down there. So I'm I'm thinking that bear has been getting shot at quite a bit, or he's just extremely cautious. But after the cinnamon bears took off, it's been like a couple of hours since that the big bear that we seen on the lease. So we went all the way back to where that big bear was hanging out at, and this time he was a little bit of a better position, and we stopped a lot further back and just kind of walked in, and he was on the far side of the lease, probably 200 yards, and Blaine lined up, and the bear was nice and broadside, and he took a shot, and left to right, he was just dead on, maybe slightly a little back, but unfortunately the elevation was a little bit off. At first I thought he shot over it, but once I started editing the footage and all that, you can actually see the bullet flying through the air, and it goes right underneath him. So unfortunately that was a miss, and that was the last I seen of that bear. For another week and a half, I was going in there almost every day at different times of the day, and I never once seen him again. But I think with that, in behind, not too far, there's a cattle pasture back there. So I think once his Blaine shot at him and kind of scared the crap out of that bear, the bear just said, "No, I'm not eating here anymore," and I'll just head out to the pasture and I'll take my luck, take my chances with the old farmer out there. The following day, me and Blaine hopped into the truck again. This time it was me, Blaine, Courtney, Shelby. We had our women with us, and we also had Macaroni, and we had Rocky. It was a full house going for a drive that evening, and we were driving around. That's one thing I really enjoy with bear hunting too. You can bring a bunch of people with you. You can talk and laugh and tell stories the whole time. Up until you see a bear or whatever, then you gotta kind of shut up and put stock on them. But, while you're driving around, you can bring your dogs with you, you can bring your friends, family, relatives, whatever. And so that was what we did on this evening. And we drove around for quite a while, and then we did finally see a bear. It was a small little opening off the side of the road, and pretty well it's like an old logging camp, or an old, pretty well just like an old campsite there. And pretty well you come around the corner, you go on this little bit of a straight stretch, and then the opening is right here off to the side. And you can't really see in the far corner until you're already pretty well driving past it, and that's where the bear was sitting. And we drove past, I seen the bear, so I slowly stopped the truck. And Blaine got pretty antsy because by now, he's missed a couple of bears. We've seen 4 or 5 by now, and he's just getting anxious and nervous, and he just doesn't want to let you down, kind of a thing. This one we got out, and the bear was slowly starting to walk away, and instead of just letting the bear walk and just kind of taking a tally, going, okay, we know that there is at least one bear here, and they don't go far. Like I said at the beginning, they stay within that 1 to 2 kilometers of where you seen them. Blaine got a little panicky. He threw up the tripod and pretty well took a shot at a walking bear. Didn't hit. Bear took off running. Never seen that bear again. Unfortunately, I keep trying to tell him, just slow down, take your time. And, he has quite a bit to learn yet, but he's slowly getting there. The last bear that me and Blaine seen together, I think it was the next day. Yeah, it was the next day or 2 days after, because it was just me, Blaine, and Shelby. Courtney had to go home. But we seen him on an old abandoned lease, And to get in there, you kind of have to go probably 200-300 yards in, and then it opens right up. So we pulled into the road. Me and Blaine got out, shut off the truck. We walked up there, and then the bear kind of walked away. We weren't really too sure what was going on because the bear had his head down. He wasn't facing us. The wind was blowing in our face. So the wind was going from the bear to us. Turns out there's a little coyote walking around. And so the coyote came up pretty well to the bear, pushed the bear off. The bear went over a little bank. Coyote took off. And then the bear was just laying on top of the bank. So me and Blaine walked up closer. So we got within about 150 yards of the bear. And then the bear came up over the bank, started feeding towards us. And again, I was talking to Blaine through the whole thing, like, just take your time, go slow, wait till that bear turns broadside. You know, he doesn't have a clue that we're here. His head's down, he's eating. You know, just pay attention to his body language. You know, he's not lifting his head and sniffing. He doesn't have his head down real low and like turning side to side, scanning the area. He's just eating grass. We have plenty of time. Unfortunately, the bear, he was feeding straight towards us, and he turned a little bit. So he was kind of quartering towards us a bit, but he wasn't full on quartering broadside. And Blaine thought that was broadside enough. Took a shot. Again, that one missed. It went like right underneath his chest, hit the dirt. Bear took off, and by then Blaine was really, really down in the gutters. Because I apologize to him now, but I kind of chewed him out a little bit, and I felt bad at the time. I still feel bad now. I just pretty well told him, like, you can't be doing these pop shots. Even if it was a deer that die a lot easier than bears, you have to wait for the proper shot. You know, you owe it to the bears to give them the respect for them to turn broadside, to put a good shot on them, to make sure they die as quick as possible. You know, we're not out just to poke holes into bears and stuff. You know, we are there as a hunter and as a provider to kill these animals ethically and efficiently, so in that way we can eat. And if you're just taking stupid shots, eventually what's going to happen is you're going to wound a bear, and you're going to the bush, and that bear is going to get a hold of you, and it's not going to end well. Plus, you're also putting that bear or that animal, whatever it is that you're hunting, through a lot of unnecessary pain and suffering, and we're not into that. If you're the type of person that likes to shoot animals just to shoot them, kind of a thing, and you kind of almost enjoy the suffering, do not come around me. With this case, it isn't Blaine's intentions on doing that. With him, he's just very, very anxious, and he's very nervous, and it's one of those things where over time you'll be able to take control of your nerves, and you'll get it figured out. It just takes time, practice, and effort. And even with all the mistakes being made and stuff, Blaine said what he's going to be doing is, when he sees a bear, when he's out at work or coming home from a job or just out driving around the countryside like he likes to do from time to time, is he's just going to shut off his truck and he's going to walk up to it as if he was hunting. He's just going to sit there and he's going to watch. And when Blaine said that, I thought, perfect. You're already making, like, taking the right steps to correct your mistakes. So it's a good learning curve for him. There is going to be a video of his hunt up on the YouTube channel as well, so you can kind of see exactly what went wrong. And it's not meant to poke fun at him or to say, look at the mistakes he's made, but it's, when you watch it, it honestly just looks like the average hunter who just had a string of bad luck. But if you kind of really go into it and analyze it, you can see like, okay, this was a rush shot. This shot shouldn't have been taken whatsoever. This one here, he was anxious and nervous. Whether it was because he's going after a bear or because I was kind of looking over his shoulder, maybe because I was filming it. It's like the fourth animal he's ever shot. It's a lot to take in all at once. And I mean, really, if we were in the opposite positions, I would probably make the same mistakes. So I can't blame him for everything. It is what it is, and it just takes more patience, more practice, and I'm sure he'll definitely come a long ways. Come next year, it'll be a night and day difference, But yeah, that was Blaine's hunts with me. I think it was the next day when Dad came out, and Dad came out, and then also Shelby came out, and Shelby wanted to do some hunting, so I took Shelby. Dad took Blaine, and they were out driving around. They seen a bear on the side of a lease that was eating grass. Blaine got out, the bear's broadside, pulled the trigger, and according to Dad, the bear didn't move. The bear just went poof, down. So they loaded that one up. They brought that back to camp. They got all skinned out, quartered, put into the game bags, put into the kind of the cooler section of my holiday trailer. Then they went out for another drive. They found a second bear. Blaine got out, pulled the trigger, bear went splat, and you got 2 bears in one day. So, it's... you went from the lowest to lows to the highest to highs within a day. So, it was a huge accomplishment for Blaine, and I'm glad Blaine and Dad were able to do a little bit of hunting together, and it's a pretty special moment when a father-son team get to go out together and get some meat in the freezer. The one day too, I think it was after Blaine missed his second bear. He went, nah, I don't really feel like packing the rifle tonight. Maybe you'll do the hunting. I said, okay, that's fine. And honestly, I was gonna go for a drive and look for that big bear. And between our camp and where the big bear was hanging out, there's a couple of little nice stretches of pipeline there that are nice and greened up. And there was a bear on the side of the road, and it was kind of like the first bear that I shot. Pretty well, he was just sitting there eating with his head down. We just went past the grader, and the grader was coming up behind us. So the bear, he was distracted, and he wasn't looking at us. He was kind of looking past us and watching the grader coming up. And so I thought, well, might as well get out and shoot this bear before the grader comes up and scares the bear away. And the grader, he was, I don't know, half kilometer back. So me and Blaine get out, and Blaine goes, you want me to film for you? I said, yeah, sure, you can film. And I click on the GoPro on my head. Blaine has the GoPro on the little gooseneck mount, and he has my main camera. He's turning everything on. I said, you on the bear? He goes, yeah, okay. Boom. Shoot. Bear takes off, goes into the trees, and then the grader was slowly coming up. So we took all the bolts out of the gun and all that good stuff. Talked to the grader operator there for about 10-15 minutes. Give the bear time to die. Then we loaded everything up. Walked in there, and where I shot the bear wasn't a bad shot. It was probably about 4 to 6 inches, slightly too far back. But the bear ran into the bush about 50 yards, maybe, if that, not even, probably about 30, and just laid down. And when we went in there, he was still alive. So I had the 300 loaded up, and I put one pretty well right through its spine.
Hold on, boy.
And I thought, there, that'll do you in. And when I shot him, the bear got back up. So I reloaded, and I put one The only thing I had to shoot was his front shoulder. Everything else was covered up in trees and little saplings and stuff. So I put another one through his front shoulder, and he went down. And then he kind of got back up again, and he turned a little bit. So I put one into his chest. When I put the bullet into his chest, he just kind of flopped over into another thick batch of spruce trees. And poor Blaine, he was pretty. He seemed like he was a little freaked out over that, but it's all part of the fun. And then when I shot the third one there, I always carry what I call my oh shit bullet. It's just another, what's that, one more round that I keep in my pocket. And after I shot the third time, I reached into my pocket, grabbed my bullet, put it in there. And I thought, man, this is going to be the first time I ever have to use my oh shit bullet. And luckily that last shot killed the bear. So I unloaded the gun there, put my oh shit bullet back into the pocket. And yeah, it was kind of funny because like after that, it wasn't even a big bear. It was probably, I don't know, maybe a 3-year-old bear. It was small enough where I could grab it by the scruff of its neck and by its butt, and with a little grunt, whatever, you could pick her up. And then I pulled it out of the trees and stuff. And yeah, for some reason, whatever, it just, that bear had a will to live, I tell you. And man, I'm shooting a 300 Win mag with 160 grain or 165 grain Barnes triple shock bullets. And, the first bear that I shot, I pretty well hit him in the identical spot. And he just went poof, just went splat, and that was it. He didn't move. He kind of rolled over a little bit and then did his death moan, and that was it. Where this one pulled the trigger and it just ran, laid down, and it was still alive, and it took 3 more shots to actually take him out. But luckily I didn't screw up overly too much meat. The one front shoulder obviously was toast, other than like the shank, and everything else was good because I got him pretty well, what I would call in the vitals. Obviously it wasn't, but I got him there, gone through the chest, which just kind of went like straight down, so I didn't screw anything up there. And then the spine shot, it messed up a little bit of the backstrap, about, I don't know, 4 to 6 inches of it. Other than that, that was it. So like 4 inches of backstrap and 1 front shoulder. But everything else, salvaged everything. It was good. And then after that, and Blaine's hunt with Dad, basically we just started to hang out around camp. We did a little bit of kind of, not really mushroom picking, but we went out and looked at a bunch of mushrooms. We picked some fiddleheads, and they were a little bit too late in the season, I think, because we were reading up on that Boreal herbal thing there, the book. And you can pick fiddleheads, and I've known about it for a long time, that you can pick fiddleheads. People say to fry them up in like garlic butter, and they're phenomenal. But the ones that they pick are the real green ones in the very beginning of spring, where the ones that we picked, they were still green, but you can see the branches were starting to come out a little bit. So they had a bunch of like brown hairs all over them. And they weren't good at all. I took a bite out of a couple of them, and it was just like chewing on a mouthful of fresh cut grass kind of a thing. Shelby ate one, and she said it tasted great and tasted sweet. So yeah, that's why I ate more than one. If she didn't tell me that, I would have bit into that first one, and that would have been it. Unfortunately for Shelby there, she ended up having to do a little bit more work than what we planned on. At first, it was kind of, she's going to be working 2 days a week kind of a thing on her job during bear season. So we planned on having her out a lot more, but then things kind of changed at her job. So then she wasn't out as much as she would like to be. So I think next week coming up, is going to be pretty well her days to hunt. Uh, Unfortunately, the price of fuel just skyrocketed within this last couple of days. We're looking at like $2.16 per liter. So to fill up my truck, it's going to be, 100 and, I don't even know, close to 200 bucks. So I think what we'll do for her is I'll grab a tank of fuel, and pretty well a tank of fuel is what she's going to be getting for her hunt. So it'll be 1 or 2 days of driving around, and we'll just see what we can see. The bears are going into the rut now, so this is the time of year, when it gets that mid-June kind of area where the bears will move a lot further than that 1 to 2 kilometers. Unfortunately, if you see a bear and it runs off, it doesn't mean you're going to see him there the next day. However, with bears running around and with all the sows that we've been seeing out here, the boars will be on the move a lot more. So it's a catch-22. It's kind of a hit and miss kind of a thing where you won't be able to really pinpoint where the bears are, but you might have the potential of seeing more of them. Plus, all the dandelions, they're out growing like crazy now. Clovers are starting to come up now too. So any hills and stuff that have a lot of dandelions and clovers, especially on a lot of these leases that are around here, you get some of those slopes where they're just completely yellow in the middle of June, and the sows hang out on there. Once the sun comes out, dandelions, they open up, they're blooming. The bears come out and they just start chewing on that, and it's just like ringing the dinner bell, So we'll see what happens here coming up, anyways. But yeah, other than that, I'm hoping Shelby's able to get for sure one more. Then that way we can take pretty well my second bear and her bear into Stan's Custom Meats and get a bunch of jalapeno cheddar smokies made up. My first bear, is basically a camp meat bear, and I honestly think most of it's ate now. Between me eating it every day and then feeding other people when they come out too, I think I got 2 roasts and 4 packs of burger left, maybe 5. I'm not exactly too sure, but there's not much left. But when that's all you eat for pretty well every day for almost 3 weeks, it's gonna go by very, very quick. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Again, if you're just watching this and you want to listen to it, you can find us on all major podcast platforms. Just search up the Buick Outdoors Podcast, and you'll find us pretty well everywhere now. Also, if you're just listening to this and you want to see the video version, every once in a while I put on little video clips. Like today, they'll most likely be the video clip of me walking in after my bear and pretty well shooting it 3 extra times. So if you want to see that footage, make sure you head over to our YouTube channel and subscribe to the channel. Check out our podcast playlist. Check out our hunting playlist, fishing, exploring, cooking, catch, cleaning, cooks. We have a little bit of everything. Also, if you want to help support us, underneath our video version in YouTube, there is the super thanks button. You can hit that and you can donate directly to us. With the donation, we get the money. You get the highlighted comment section that gets pinned to the top, so you stand out as a top fan, and we really appreciate that. Also, if you just want to watch the videos, listen to the podcast, tell people about it, that helps us out a ton as well. Another way too is if you go to our Spreadshirt website, there'll be a link in the description below. There's also a link pinned to the top of our Facebook page, and you click on that. Go through all the clothing and gear that we have. We have this little sweater. We have cups, mugs, travel mugs, hoodies, t-shirts. There's a whole pile of different stuff on there, and little hats and stuff too. But yeah, I really appreciate all the support that you guys give us. And yeah, hope you enjoyed this. If you did, hit that like button, leave us a comment or two, leave us a rating and review. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Catch you on the next one.